So it's been 10 years, believe it or not, since the first generation Panigale was released. And as you may expect, the prices have come down quite a bit. You can pick yourself up a lightly used 1199 like this for about 10 to 12 grand. Even a 1299, 12 to 15 grand. Some of you young fellas may be thinking, I may be able to afford one of those Panigales. Should I buy one as a first sport bike? Well, in this video, I'm going to address that very question right after I go up this really cool loop right here. Right off of PCH, baby. Turn on the fan. Fan on. California. That's why you can't go hog wild on these roads. You don't know what the hell's up here. Ooh, wow, that is tight. Holy shit. Man, I am rusty. Wow, look at that. Beautiful. Look at that. Holy shit. Tremendous, Joe Rogan. Guy's still here. Well, if you haven't guessed, I'm back in California. Oh yeah. Just having all my crap. Show you where we're going. This is my view. Gotta get your body all the way around in this. Wow, holy fucking shit. Photo equipment. And then, ooh, look at that lizard. Oh. I might just throw a random fry in the middle. Oh, who's faster? That was good. What's up, mofos? Here at the San Gabriel Highway in Azusa. We're heading up to the Angeles Crest, and thought I would just have fun and shoot a little videoage. So I've never been up here on this end of Angeles Crest. I always come in from like the Pasadena foothills area, but I'm in Azusa, and I got my tinted visor on, so visibility is close to nothing. I am rusty. I've been in Boston for the last year for COVID, and I'm actually riding with a broken back that's never going to heal. So it's this is quite an adjustment. It's probably my first real twisty ride, and I am out of practice. The you know, you get like the 2-inch chicken strips when you live in New England, because there really aren't too many pristine, twisty roads. So yeah, I am Rusty Jones. It just feels weird leaning. My balance just isn't there. You know the old 50% rule. The nice thing about the twin is, look, I could just put it in fourth. Gearing doesn't really matter. You know, it really doesn't. It's not as theatrical as the inline fours. You know, you don't get that mellifluous cacophony of beautiful sounds that you do from an inline four when you're in the revs. But I'm happy to trade that off for immediate urgency. I was at the Los Angeles Mall in West Hollywood, and this young fella came up to me, and he's like, oh, I love the Panigales. I really want one, but I don't have a motorcycle license. What kind of bike should I buy? I would really like to get like a 996 or 998. If you're a new rider, or even a novice, someone who's got a couple of years and thinks they're ready for a bigger motorcycle, should you buy an 1199, one of these first generation Panigale twins? And I say no, because they're one of the most difficult motorcycles to ride. The chassis are incredibly rigid, and the power is really unforgiving. The way it delivers power is really unforgiving. It's a very leery motorcycle, very unpredictable. It's got a violent, really vicious power delivery. I've seen Matt Farah and et al. Come up here in times, and I always wondered where this was. I knew it was Angeles Crest, but I didn't know how you got up here. You know, I think I figured it out. So the secret to riding these old first-gen Panigales, and yes, this is an old bike now. Believe it or not, this design was released 10 years ago. Creeping up on about 40,000 miles. But the secret to riding these old bikes is to really get your hands as far out as possible on the bars. You can see that the balancing weight on the handlebar is almost in the center of my palm, and that's to give you as much leverage as you can get over the bars, because this chassis is very, very stiff. You know, it's monocoque, doesn't have a conventional chassis, so the chassis stiffness is roughly equivalent to the stiffness of the engine casing. It's extremely rigid, so you really have to muscle this bike around corners, and the only way you can do that is really to get your hands as far out on the bars as possible. There's no other superbike or even sport bike that handles like this in terms of the amount of wrestling you have to do with the bike. It's pretty crazy. Even the Panigale V4 isn't as leery as the first gen, the 1199s, man. These things are so rigid. I wish I knew that when I bought the bike. I probably would have got something that was a little bit easier to learn on. I mean, I love this machine, but I think I would have started with something like an S1000 or an Aprilia RS-V4, because this was my first super bike, my first real sport bike. I had ridden standards most of my life. So should you buy a twin-cylinder Panigale for a first sport slash super bike? I say no. It's really a long learning curve. Even the 899, 959 V2, they're much more refined. They've got the 1299 steering geometry, so you've got the 24-degree rake or steering angle. This is 24.5, so it's a little bit lazier. Whoa. The 1299, that guy has no headlights. I think he was just coasting. So the 1299 is a huge improvement over this bike, as well as the 899. But still a very tough, leery, and violent type of motorcycle to ride. And the 1199 is just so much more of that. It's the most visceral and exciting Ducati that they've ever produced. Even more so than the 1198, 1098. Yeah, I'm starting to lose. I've got this tinted visor. I'm starting to lose visibility. Having a hard time seeing where the road is going. So bang for the buck, I told him SV650 because you can grow into racing that bike. So you buy an SV, you learn on the bike, you ride it on the street, and then you put some fairings on it, and you go and do some track days or track classes. They have some track experience days. Those are really great. There's a whole SV650 racing series. So basically you get one of your buddies, you buy some cheap Chinese fairings for 300 bucks, and you basically got a racing team. And so then you can learn on that, become a much more proficient rider. And then when you've mastered that, go out and get a bigger displacement, a more powerful motorcycle. If you really get your heart set on a 996 or a 998, go out and buy a 996. Keep it in the garage. It may need some repairs or restoration. It's a Ducati after all. No matter what it is, if it's a used machine, say an R1, like the first generation R1s, those are great and get them pretty cheap, under 5 grand. Put it in the garage, restore it, work on it, get it tip-top. You've got the bike, you can show it to your friends, you can lust over it, you can mod it, tail tidy. And then when you've outgrown the SV650, you can ride that bike. And in the meantime, the value is increasing on the sport bike that you bought, especially with the first generation 916 platform, 916, 996, 998, even the 999s. Those bikes are really popping in value, so it's a good investment. And so that's my recommendation. Let's go, Jibba. Oh, you fucker. You fucker?